All right, welcome everyone. We have a bill hearing today, about 10 bills. House Bill 1115, Delegate Solomon, please bring your, if you have a panel, you can bring them forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize. The
Yes.
county executive unfortunately was not able to make it with
Yes,
the
but
time.
Mr. County Executive, it's great to see you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, colleagues. For the record, Delegate Jared Solomon here to present House Bill 1115, the Transparency in Education Spending Act. And I just want to start off by sort of prefacing with, I started my career actually as a high school teacher in Baltimore City. And one of the reasons that I ran actually for the state legislature and to be down here with you all was particularly around the blueprint. I think a lot about the kids that I taught, the work that I've done in my career, and how important it is. And I think as the briefing that we just got showed, that is a transformational piece of legislation, transformational spending that will literally, improve lives of our students, of our children for decades to come. And so it's really critically important that we make sure the public has trust that the law that we put so much time and effort and so much of our hard-earned treasure. As a former teacher, I'm also a current taxpayer and father of two, that we are being good stewards at all levels of the taxpayers' dollars. And for most of our counties, and actually maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like probably the budget for our budgets, the schools are the largest expenditure in every county's budget, almost every, and certainly one of the largest expenditures that is not just a pass-through on our end from the federal government, that we have to make a proactive decision on. So I want to just preface the conversation with that I think we have to make sure that the public trusts that the money is going to the right place, that when they look at a budget, they know the money is actually going to be spent where it's going to be spent, and that they can figure it out. Not only can they figure it out, but that our county elected leaders who obviously have the final say over the total allocations at the county level know where it's going. And I say that because that is the intent of this bill. It is not intended to give county governments the final authority or decision-making over school budgets. That obviously still rests within the powers delegated to our local school boards. And this is not meant to create some incredibly burdensome new mandate or new reporting requirements on our school systems, which I know we're always cognizant of. Again, this is meant to sort of put some belts and suspenders and clarify some existing law. And frankly, when you look at the things that are in this bill, it's pretty common sense, right? It's making sure that we can publish online easily locatable copies of proposed budgets and the budget requests, that the State Department of Ed, who again delegates the authority on our behalf to local boards, has a sort of uniform process for all the information that a lot of counties are already reporting in one form or another, but make sure that it's consistent and that folks can again understand it. That school districts have to disclose the amount of money and the amount of spending from their reserves. They have to disclose the status of assets available in their pension and employment benefit trusts, and give counties more complete and timely education spending information so that our county leaders can make informed decisions. The last piece of the bill that I did want to address, because I think it's probably the one piece that comes up the most in the informational or favorable with amendment testimony, is the one piece in the bill that actually sort of clarifies current law around this 1% transfer of funds with between categories. So we have 14 categories that school systems have to catalog their spending in, and when money is transferred between those categories, existing law, and it's a little hard to necessarily figure out in the print of the bill because our language amends existing law, but I printed out existing law. What it says here is a transfer between major categories shall be made only with the approval of the county commissioners or county council. And then it goes on to say that they have essentially, the county councils have 30 days to take action. So under current law, a school system is not allowed to transfer money, again, after the budget has been approved by a county entity, without getting approval from their county council or county commissioners. What we are doing in our bill is essentially clarifying that law, because it's not clear, and when you talk to a lot of county leaders probably in each of your jurisdictions, that's being followed. Oftentimes school systems move money around, sometimes for emergencies for very good reason, and our bill keeps in a provision that says, if there's a federal funding opportunity that you have to move really quickly on, you can move money. And 1% may seem kind of tiny for a county like Montgomery. 1% within a category can still be like $11 or $12 million. depending on the size of that category. So these are not like insignificant shuffling of dollars. You know, we had to move $100,000 to buy a couple of extra sets of supplies for schools. This is like a concerted effort to change a course and policy, which is fine, right? Nobody's saying that a school system shouldn't have that flexibility, but they should do it in concert with the entity that has approved their budget, that has set their budget, and with full transparency to the public so that we as taxpayers know where the money is going. And so I just wanted to preface that we are not creating some incredibly new arduous burden on school systems. And I think if you read some of the testimony, it sort of makes it seem like we are, because again, we're actually in some respects being more generous than existing law and existing code already is. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my panel and appreciate the committee's favorable report.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from our county executive, who we can relax the 2-minute requirement for a little bit, Mr. County Executive, but I'll remind the witnesses here today, witnesses have 2 minutes to testify.
So I appreciate that very much, Chair Barnes and Vice Chair Chang. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak today. I'm here in strong support of House Bill 1115. I want to say, just to give you context, I grew up in Montgomery County, educated in public schools. My kids went to public schools there. My grandkids went to public schools there. I taught in the public schools there. I am deeply vested in public schools. And last year, in order to preserve their budget, I put forward a 10-cent tax increase, which I dare say very few people were willing to do in order to make sure they can meet the salary requirements of the negotiated contracts. So I'm not shy about spending money. But what I am bothered by is a lack of accountability. And what we don't do and what we don't see is cooperation and transparency in the school system. That flat out does not exist. And this is something that we struggle with. So the issue about knowing what's actually in their reserves, I'm there long enough to remember when the school system actually would always discover they had more reserves the day after the budget was passed. And they'd suddenly announce that we have all this money, and guess what? We couldn't touch it the day after the budget was passed. That kind of stuff erodes public trust. And as somebody who really believes in funding education, when, you know, for years, Montgomery County has always been over MOE. This year, we could go to a minus 25 million. We're not doing it. So our starting point is last year's budget plus, not last year's budget minus 25 plus. So I just want to say all this because this gives you an idea that I'm looking at this as a committed educator and believer in funding education. But if we put money year after year to close the achievement gap, and we get a line in the budget as, you know, X millions of dollars to close the achievement gap, you try to figure out what the programs are, maybe you can figure it out. There is no tracking. And that's one of the amendments we're asking for, is to be able to track where that money goes. Because guess what you discover after a few years? The programs you funded aren't there anymore. The money does not reappear at the end of the budget cycle, say this is the money we saved because we decided this program wasn't worthwhile and we're going to appropriate it to X. The money is just invisible, regardless of whatever they do with it. It's not something they've come to us for, and it doesn't show up where oftentimes we think it ought to show up. So this ability to actually track money and for the benefit of the public, be able to read a budget. You should be able to read a school budget the way you read my county's budget. And any of us are in counties. We have to lay out detail after detail of where this money is going. If we get in front of a committee, we are grilled on every bit of our expenditures. I can tell you in my years on the council as an executive, the education budget is the least examined budget because you just can't get information when you need it. You can't get it in detail. It's very frustrating. I was a supporter of MOE, but MOE came with a curse. And the curse is when you're guaranteed last year's money plus, you don't need to be accountable for anything. And I feel like that's the attitude the school systems have taken over the year. You're going to fund us at last year's level. You're going to give us additional MOE. And we really don't have to explain very much because the money's coming to us anyway. So I'm asking you for a favorable report on this bill. They can stand the sunshine. It's not going to hurt them. Saying that they stopped the program and this is where the money went isn't going to hurt anybody. Limiting the transfers so that they can't transfer excessively large amounts of money without the council's approval is a good thing. And strengthening that would be a great thing. So I ask for your favorable report. And I just think of me, you know, I'm an educator. I am not doing this with any intention of making it more difficult to operate a school, but they have to kind of pass the same public tests that the rest of us have to pass when we're producing budgets. And this would go a long way to getting us there. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, esteemed committee, Brianna January with the Maryland Association of Counties in strong support of HB 1115. Committee, you will hear from more of our county leaders in just a moment. They are best to tell this story as the county executive just demonstrated. I just want to add some context on how we got here. This bill is one of MACO's 4 legislative initiatives for this year. That is how important this is to county governments. And committee, the bill language before you is the product of over a year's worth of work and stakeholder feedback and editing, including from the local boards of education, the local superintendents, MSDE, the AIB, the teachers union, even legislative leadership. This has been over a year's worth of work with everyone's feedback, and that's the language that stands before you today. That said, this bill is dramatically pared back and focused strictly on transparency and good governance. And I will reiterate that in no way, shape, or form does the bill authorize county government oversight over school system budgets or alter funding requirements or formulas in any way, shape, or form. And I think that the fiscal note actually demonstrates that fairly well. What HB 1115 does do, however, is provide Maryland's counties, our taxpayers, and our families that benefit from the local school systems access to timely and comprehensive information on how we invest in education. That is essentially all that this bill does. We are aware of some amendments that Mr. County Executive alluded to coming from Montgomery County, seeking to dive a little bit deeper into the data. Those amendments are certainly in line with the spirit of this bill, but we leave it up to the wisdom of this good committee exactly how deep you'd like to go. Committee, bottom line here is that with this bill, you can help your partners in government responsibly and informatively prepare for investing in education. And thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, Ron Young, the Legislative Director for Prince George's County, and on behalf of County Executive Also Brooks, I would like to thank Chairman Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and the members of the committee for allowing us to talk on House Bill 1115. As counties, funding our education system is one of the most essential obligations that we have. So much so that in our county, we fund education with 62% of our budget. Historically, local education spending has operated in a black box. Local boards of education receive funding from the state, federal, and county government sources, and then manage and spend those funds in ways that have been perceived as not being as transparent or subject to accountability. Counties serve as fiduciary partners in education and have long waited timely and detailed information on local spending to best set our priorities and address the needs of our community. It is vital for us to have the full picture to support our ability to make responsible and informed decisions. We know that the General Assembly agrees with this, and in passing the blueprint, mandated additional reporting, oversight, and a budget tracking system. These changes present us with an opportunity to achieve what we have long seen as necessary. However, adopting this legislation gives needed clarity, accountability, and timeliness to not just education spending, but budget adjustments. This bill will provide counties with the information to anticipate education costs and budget responsibly. This bill will make uniform financial reporting and standards for not just the expectations of our school systems, but also for county government. And this will empower all of Maryland's taxpayers and families to know where their public dollars are going and that are being spent in educating our kids and in our schools. Funding education is an incredible responsibility that we all share, and all stakeholders benefit from a clear understanding of where the sources are used and how we use our public funds to fund education. So thank you for the time, and we hope for a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and esteemed committee members. For the record, I am Jennifer Lynch, Baltimore County's Senior Policy Advisor in Education and Workforce, here representing County Executive John Olszewski. For context, I have had the privilege of benefiting from and serving Maryland's education system for my entire life. As a former student, parent, school psychologist, and school principal, I know how critical it is that schools receive the funding they need to best serve children. Schools are being asked to do increasingly more for both students and families, and they need investments that pace with these demands. At the same time, county and state budgets are also being stretched. As a senior policy advisor of county government and as a state AIB member, I understand that budget dollars are finite and that we must be focused, disciplined, and responsible with our taxpayer dollars. This is why HB 115 is so important. We cannot be good stewards of taxpayer dollars if we do not have all of the pieces of the puzzle. This bill simply acknowledges counties as important fiduciary partners who are entitled to the same level of budget transparency and clarity that are provided by other departments and offices at both the state and local levels. This bill does not alter or increase reporting demands. This bill will allow us to better predict education spending, improve fiscal efficiencies, develop new partnerships, and ensure that our schools have the financial investments and resources they need to fully implement the blueprint for Maryland's future. This bill also sets universal financial reporting standards for school systems, allowing Maryland's parents. Thank you so much, and I would appreciate a favorable support on HB 1115.
Good afternoon, committee members, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Yousef Ahmed. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for Dr. Ball in Howard County, asking for your favorable report on this bill. I commend Delegate Solomon and Mako for bringing this bill forward, and I echo all of the comments made by my colleagues in the county executive here today. Rather than parrot the county executive's written remarks, which you all have, I'll try to provide some real life examples of what this would mean. Howard County has invested over $130 million over maintenance of effort since FY21, despite declining enrollment. This year, our maintenance of effort has declined for the second time in the past 5 years. Like the county executive said, I don't believe that we will be funding below that level, or at that level will be well above it. The 1% in this bill would represent about 7.2 million of our school's budget. That 7.2 million in Howard County would represent over 100 teachers. It would represent a serious capital project such as an HVAC replacement or a major school renovation. It would represent over 62 library media specialists. This is not a small sum of money that we're talking about. The 1% threshold that exists and that has been discussed in the interim is a fairly high mark that I think we can all agree on that is not a minimal investment. So with all of that said, we ask for a favorable amendment and would take any questions. Thank you.
Testimony, your support of the blueprint. Are there any questions for the panel? Delegate Grist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is actually in regards to an amendment, I think, to this bill from May regarding categorical transfers. Could, Brianna, do you want to comment on that?
So sorry, we also have Frederick County here to testify in favor of the bill. Yeah, thank you for that question, Delegate. We are aware of MABE's amendments. It's a pretty lengthy submission that you have before you. I'd like to provide a little bit of context around the 14 categories. Committee, this is not new law currently in Maryland law. If a county board of education wants to transfer an amount of funds from one of the 14 categories to another, I won't go over all of the 14 categories, but we're talking about buckets like personnel and salaries versus technology or equipment for classrooms. Maryland law today says that you have to have the approval of the county governing body to do that. In practice, unfortunately, over the years, some of our school systems have taken that to mean, well, we can transfer large sums of money and we'll get the county government's approval after doing so, after the funds are gone or promised, and we'll just get a stamp of approval to basically send off to MSDE and we've done our job. That was not the intent of that law, nor was it the intent of what some of you, when that was passed. You know, it's really supposed to be a partnership and a conversation. And so in our bill, we are clarifying that those transfers should happen only following the approval of the county governing body to have that conversation. That said, we worked over the interim with MABE, PZAM, other stakeholders. There are guardrails that I think the good sponsor alluded to in the bill. In current law, there are no percentage requirements for transfers. You're supposed to tell the county government for every penny transfer, technically in current law. What we've decided in this bill as a negotiation with our school systems is 1% of any category's total budget. So 1%, if you're moving more than 1% from your salary and personnel to a different bucket, have that conversation with the county governing body beforehand. We've also provided some guardrails around special situations, like if there are federal fund matches that have a quick turnaround and that sort of thing, or an emergency situation. We saw that during COVID. The school systems had to transfer money from one to another really quickly to respond. All of the guardrails in the bill were negotiated with the school systems. MABE is looking for an increase from that 1% to 15%. That is substantial. 1% in a category, even for the smallest of counties like Queen Anne's, could easily be $1 million. So 15 is unreasonable. We are in conversations. We'll get to a place where everyone is a little bit more comfortable. But it is a little discouraging to see that after having negotiated and agreed upon language in the bill, our school systems are now having a little trouble.
Yeah, I would just echo, as I mentioned from the outset, what current law states. So in parts of Montgomery County's budget categories, that's $150 million transfer.
Yeah.
And again, current law has no threshold, and it says county governments have 30 days to essentially make an affirmative decision with their board. And I do want to mention also, I think she stepped out, but our chief counsel, Michelle Lambert, was just wonderfully helpful in helping us put this bill together. I really appreciate her work in helping us work through some of the broader conversations.
I did want to say it, but she helped me go line by line.
I think we can all agree on is we love Michelle Lambert.
Here.
Yes, here.
Move favorable. So we might need a 2-minute limit on answers to questions as well as testimony. All right, Delegate McComas, do you have a question about gravel or something else?
Just, pardon? No, come on now. Okay. Anyway, I just want to ask, I assume that what you want to do is to be able to have these budgets comparable from county to county to kind of figure out what's going on. So I suspect that a lot of the budgets now are different. Hartford's different from Montgomery so are you going to try to provide some kind of template for everybody so that they're all kind of doing it the same way, at least for this bill? I mean,
Yeah.
they could probably do it the way they all do it, but they've got to have something that complies with this bill.
I was going to say one of the provisions in the bill is to ask MSDE to essentially create a standard format. There's a litany of categories that's listed in the bill that are current law. We add a couple of those again in the reserve fund piece, but that's current law, and it would ask MSDE to create some sort of a uniform template. And to your point, I mean, Montgomery County for a long time published essentially budget books like we would get for the state budget for the school system, and then they just sort of stopped. And then all of a sudden this year, they've now restarted that practice, but that's the kind of thing that should be up there regularly available for members of the public, for us, for county officials to be able to look at and understand.
I just have one quick follow. So basically, I would assume that your county executive and you and everybody were not happy with the audits of the school system because that really didn't get you what you needed to know as to what was going on. Is that fair to say?
I would say I think an audit is different than just publicly available information on the budget.
Okay.
We want information so that it can, again, be a partnership, rather as opposed to looking backwards and just being frustrated that there was no collaboration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right, that concludes this panel. Mr. County Executive, great to see you. Thanks for being with us
See you
today.
too.
Appreciate it. All right, we have Michelle Corcodell, John Willems, Rhea Gupta, Mary Pat Fannin, and then we have 3 online witnesses that we'll get to at the end. You all can come up and
Mr. Chair, I'm so sorry. We had Frederick County government.
I have it online from Frederick. Is that Heather Clayball? I don't have anyone from Frederick signed up.
Okay.
Yes, because it's your support.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Rhea Gupta, and I'm the policy researcher with Strong Schools Maryland. We continue to champion for high quality implementation and full funding of the blueprint. We believe empowered stakeholder engagement will make the blueprint more effective and impactful. And I'm here today to testify in favor of House Bill 1115 because we know with record-breaking investments in the education system, accountability and transparency of blueprint funds and their alignment with their intended goals is a necessity.
House Bill 1115 in the end does what its title says, increases much needed transparency in education spending. Provisions like requiring counties to post their budget on their website so information can easily be engaged with, and the creation of a uniform reporting system is a step towards the goal of transparency. Transparency, as we know, allows for more meaningful and accessible public engagement that will help local governments be more responsive to their community's needs and increase government trust within the community. House Bill 1115 also provides clarity and flexibility in how a local board of education can transfer funds, allowing the board to make decisions and act in the best interest of their students in the county. Currently codified in Blueprint law, the AIB and MSDE are to collaborate to implement a financial management system and student data system capable of tracking and analyzing progress towards Blueprint goals. While we hope for an update from the AIB soon, we hope that once this system is up and running, it can work simultaneously and in conjunction with the provisions of this bill. The proposed legislation reinforces Blueprint law and ensures that Maryland school systems and the public are equipped with the most up-to-date financial information and systems to make world-class schools in Maryland a reality. For these reasons, we urge a favorable report on House Bill 1115. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the committee. On behalf of the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, I am Michelle Corkadell, May President, testifying in support of House Bill 1115 with an amendment. MABE and the 24 local school boards we represent supports this MACO initiative to clarify that certain types of funds and accounts in school system budgets should be made available to our local government partners and the public in a transparent manner. However, the bill would also seek to establish a uniform standard for local government decisions on whether school systems may transfer funds between budget categories after the budget is adopted. MABE is very concerned about how disruptive this new one-size-fits-all process will be. Therefore, we are requesting an amendment to increase the amount of local school system flexibility to transfer funds between categories without the local government's prior approval. The amendment would adopt a threshold of 15% of each category, below which school systems could transfer funds without the prior approval of local governments. The bill, as introduced, would set the threshold at only 1%, which MABE strongly believes is far too low to allow school systems the much-needed discretion to effectively maneuver funds during the school year as the need arises. Again, MABE generally supports the funding transparency provisions of this bill. Local boards value and work to build collaborative relationships with their local governments, not only because they are major funders, but also as partners in the work of providing excellence in public education within each of Maryland's 24 local school systems. Hopefully, House Bill 1115 will improve county school board relations by enhancing budget transparency. But MABE believes that unless the bill is amended to raise the 1% threshold for discretionary transfers, the bill may do harm than good. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Apologize, I'm the chicken soup caucus today. My name is Mary Pat Fannin. I'm the Executive Director of the Public School Superintendents Association, and I'm here to support House Bill 1115 with the 15% threshold amendment that you've heard. I want to address one thing that was discussed, which was we have had discussions with MACO over the past 2 years. And one of the things that we have repeatedly said is, what exactly are you not seeing that we can deal with at home? I mean, and not have to bring it before the state legislature. We had superintendents reach out to their county councils. We had board members reach out to their county councils. And I would say the majority have said, we don't have this problem. So there is a level of frustration of having to even bring this bill before you, but I'd like to make that the case. This bill's about a transparency and accountability. On the first issue, you will hear from 3 of our school system CFOs that are going to be testifying in just a minute. And they're going to talk about the intensive and cooperative local policies and procedures that are in place right now for the financial management and fidelity of the school systems. I think you'll be impressed by what you'll hear, and you'll be convinced that the bill's one size all doesn't work for all the districts. With regard to accountability, local school systems undergo a rigorous local annual budget process, one that you are very familiar with here. They go through that budget process with their local boards. They also go through that process with their local governments. But we're also held to a tremendous amount of state and federal reporting requirements to MSDE, to the state legislature, and we have numerous financial and performance audits. And the blueprint, which I didn't even get to. Oh, there's the next, yeah.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, John Willems representing the Maryland Association of Boards of Education. And I almost misspoke because the first thing I want to say is that for the 26 years I've been advocating for public education budgets, the 26 years, including the first 4 of those being as a staffer for MACO, there is no entity or set of entities in the state more fiscally accountable and more required to be transparent with their budgets than local school systems in Maryland. We are quasi-state agencies. We are entirely fiscally dependent on state and local funding. We respect and love our funding authorities, including you all. And we are under the mantle of a degree of fiscal accountability that is almost unbelievably specific, granular, and prescriptive. There is, as my testimony describes, a state school finance manual that all school systems have to provide. There is uniformity, Delegate McComas, in how school systems report just about every dollar we spend, not just those 14 categories, but items and sub-items within those categories. And that has been the case for decades. And so there is a vast amount of accountability and transparency that we're already subject to. There is this longstanding provision in law that has never been applied in a one-size-fits-all manner. And that's the disruptive impact of saying now that means 1% or less than 1% or more than 1% for all 24 jurisdictions. There are jurisdictions the school system goes to the county and asks for permission before transferring even small amounts of money. There are others where large amounts of money are transferred and it is quarterly or annually reported and approved by the county government. So that vast variety across the 24 systems is what drives our concern about adopting that one-size-fits-all approach now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, all the witnesses. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Delegate Jones.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you, Michelle. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
And I just want for Anne Arundel County to make it clear, are you here? You are here on behalf of the mayor of me.
That is correct, Delegate.
And so the other big 5 have all testified, and then some counties who are smaller in favorable without not mentioning the amendments. And I don't see anything from Anne Arundel County. Will we be hearing from Anne Arundel County? Nothing has been submitted.
I'm not aware that we're testifying on this specific bill. I do know that we just reaffirmed our position of support with amendments as of yesterday's session. And that is always available on our website, right by our budget, actually. So we do have, we've not chosen to testify on that, on this particular bill as a county as of now, that I'm aware, not that I'm aware of. I'm here for May today representing all of them, including Anne Arundel County.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of the committee for the panel? Great. Thank you very much, everyone. We have witnesses who are joining us virtually today. We have Denise Soapa with Cecil County Public Schools, Karen Acton with the Charles County Public Schools, and Heather Clayball with Frederick County Public Schools. Hi, Ms. Soapa. Thank you for joining us virtually. You have 2 minutes for your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Denise Soapa, and I am the Chief Financial Officer for Cecil County Public Schools. Thank you for allowing me to share information regarding our monthly reporting to our county government. Each month, we prepare and present a financial report that reflects increases or decreases in revenue, as well as transfers between state categories. We report on our entire operating budget, which includes the general fund or unrestricted budget and the grant fund or restricted budget. This report includes all of our local, state, and federal dollars. This report includes a letter to the county executive that includes a summary of changes to revenues and expenditures. It includes descriptions of each addition or reduction in revenue and the amount for each. We include a transaction detail report by state category for each budget amendment or transfer between categories. We also include a budget update for the unrestricted budget, the restricted budget, and the total operating budget, and we report this by revenue source, by category, and by object. We include another report that includes unrestricted expenditures by state category for the current year and the past 2 fiscal years so that we can compare trends over a 3-year period. And we also prepare an unrestricted budget report by department to show the percent of the budget spent year to date. This information is presented to our Board of Education, and then it's sent to the county executive and county council after board approval. In the past, we've made ourselves available for questions and sent the link to our Board of Ed presentation. In December, County Council asked for us to present in person, which we have been doing since that time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Soapa. Any questions for Ms. Soapa in the committee? Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
And next we'll have Ms. Acton from Charles County Public Schools. Ms. Acton, if you could turn on your camera and your microphone, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Sorry about that. Good afternoon. I'm Karen Acton, the Chief Financial Officer for Charles County Public Schools. We have a yearly financial and single audit performed by outside auditors that's posted on our website and shared with our Board of Education in our county. In addition, we are routinely audited by the Office of Legislative Audits and MSDE. The results of these audits are posted on our website and shared with our board and the county. We produce monthly financial statements that are shared with our board and our county. The monthly statements include an executive summary that explains the actual monthly and year-to-date results compared to last year and to the budget. We explain all variances in this summary. These statements also report by category, showing the budget, expenditures, remaining budget balance, and a comparison to the same month in the previous year. Our financial software will not allow a purchase to be made that is over budget unless it is approved by the CFO. Throughout the year, if we have savings in a state category, we transfer that money to fund other unfunded initiatives that are imperative to continue the operation of the school system without interruption in services. I present all intercategory budget changes to the county budget office and to the commissioners at their regular meetings. We usually have 3 or 4 transfers a year. My county appreciates that we reallocate our resources as needed throughout the year to keep our yearly budget requests at a minimum. One of the major intercategory budget transfers that we do each year is for capital outlay. If we have savings and we need to replace a roof at one of our buildings, our county prefers that we use those savings to complete the project and not add it to our budget requests. We communicate regularly with the county budget office when we have large unbudgeted expenses to alert them to our need and to discuss how we can fund it. This legislation would severely delay our capital outlay projects as the dollars needed for any project is significantly higher than 1%. The majority of our intercategory budget changes are above 1%. This legislation would most likely require Charles County Public Schools to request intercategory budget changes monthly at our commissioner meetings. Our budget process is collaborative and transparent with our county. I speak with the budget director continuously throughout the budget process, and we collaborate on solutions to our budget requests. They alert me to their funding constraints.
It's Acton, if you could summarize. Thank you.
Sure. And we work together to resolve the differences between our request and what they can provide. We have a very good working relationship with the county, and I would not like to overwhelm them with monthly intercategory budget requests. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Acton. Are there any questions from members of the committee for Ms. Acton? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Clayball. You could unmute yourself and provide testimony in 2 minutes. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Heather Clayball. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Fiscal Services for Frederick County Public Schools. All local education agencies have significant reporting requirements by local, state, and federal authorities. The reports range from the per pupil allocations required by the Every Student Succeeds Act and the Maryland Report Card to the submission of our annual comprehensive financial report. LEAs participate in a robust audit schedule, including annual audits such as the year-end financial audit and the single audit for federal grants, to periodic audits like the one completed by the Office of Legislative Audits. FCPS provides copies of the major reports, audits, and all of our budget documentation to our county, as well as posting them on our website, fcps.org. In Frederick County, our local government established the Interagency Internal Audit Authority. The IIAA has representatives from County Council, FCPS, Frederick Community College, along with citizen members. These audits are rigorous and seek to determine areas for process improvements. Recently, the IIAA has completed audits of the FCPS Capital Improvement Program from the project inception to closeout, as well as a review of our assets and inventories for accountability and surplus. The staff of FCPS and Frederick County government have a collaborative approach to problem solving. FCPS provides monthly budget reports of minor transfers and completes major transfers between categories and the capital program amendments as necessary. When questions arise from these transfers or amendments, the two organizations work together to ensure we meet our primary objective to be good stewards of the taxpayer funding. I appreciate the opportunity to provide you with a brief glance of the financial reporting completed by FCPS. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the committee for Ms. Clayball? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Clayball. That concludes the bill hearing for House Bill 1115. Committee will now move on to House Bill 1044, Delegate Solomon, State Agency Workforce Policy for the 21st Century Act.
Forgot my notes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this will be a lot quicker. Thank you again for the record, Delegate Jared Solomon here to present on House Bill 1044. This is a really quick one. So the language that you have before you was actually put in originally to be a placeholder as we worked with the Department of Budget and Management and our partners over in the Senate on the personnel work group recommendations. And so the language that you see in there that deals with sort of recruitment strategies, and there's also language in there about job titling and degree requirements for state positions. We actually plan on pulling both of those two sections out and essentially submitting JCR language to work with DBM during the interim on analyzing and kind of updating what those pieces could look like. And we are going to have a sponsor amendment that will essentially replace the bill with two sections in the personnel code in section 7204. And these are direct recommendations from the personnel work group. One is to eliminate the 1 week review for a job posting before it's public. The work group made it clear it was only literally that can be done in 24 hours. We want to just make sure that that's not in code anymore. And I know we've had conversations about this, I think, during the DBM analysis, the continuous rating of applicants as they come in, instead of having to wait until a full position closes and then rating all of your applicants, you should, the folks within HR should essentially be rating applicants as they come in so that when the position is closed, they can immediately be able to categorize and move to interviews. So again, we want to make sure that that's struck from the code to make it clear to folks within the state HR system that they can do that. And that's it. Laura Bicol is here graciously from the Department of Budget and Management to answer any questions, but that will do it, and would urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much to bill sponsor, Ms. Michael, for being here. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Okay, thank you very much.
Not quite as quick as the pensions bill, but
that's right. Natasha White from Interfaith Action for Human Rights. This is Natasha White here. How about Denise Gilmore, Ask Me Maryland?
Good afternoon, Denise Gilmore with AFSCME Maryland. I will also be very quick. With these amendments, AFSCME is comfortable with the bill, but we certainly urge the committee not to pursue any other action on this bill. We think we have a lot of work to do in the interim to really take a look at this. We want to make sure we get all stakeholders in before we, look to do more in the personnel code. But with these two amendments, we can feel comfortable with the bill. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gilmore. Are there any questions for the committee for Ms. Gilmore? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gilmore. And then just checking one more time, Natasha White with Interfaith Action for Human Rights. Okay, great. That concludes the bill hearing for House Bill 1044. The committee will now move on to House Bill 914. Delegate Jones, Winery and Vineyard Economic Development Grant Program modifications.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to bring up my panel if that's okay. Thank you. Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and my friends on the Appropriations Committee. I am Delegate Dana Jones from Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. I come before you today to introduce House Bill 914, Winery and Vineyard Economic Development Grant Program modifications, which modifies the grant program Maryland instituted just 2 years ago. This legislation consists of minor technical fixes that the Department of Commerce and the Maryland Wineries Association have requested. The Development Grant Fund promotes Maryland wineries and vineyards, boosts tourism, local agriculture, and helps to preserve our open spaces. These technical changes gives Commerce more flexibility to administer the fund, removing the date that applications must be submitted by and the date that applications must be awarded by, as well as gives Commerce the discretion to set those dates. House Bill 914 will improve the administration of the grant program and allow small business owners to benefit to the full extent they are eligible. The Department of Commerce has submitted a letter in favor of these modifications, and last week, Senate cross-file SB 746 was unanimously voted out of the Senate. Actually, it was voted out today. Lastly, I'm introducing this bill alongside a technical amendment to correct a small drafting error. With that, I respectfully request a favorable report on HB 914.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Matt Boley of RWL Law here on behalf of the Maryland Wineries Association in support of HB 914. Briefly, a tax credit program that has expired existed for wineries and vineyards and was the predecessor of this grant program. This grant program provides capital dollars to wineries and vineyards to help alleviate certain expenses. This legislation makes minor technical changes, just giving Commerce the ability to set when the application is due and by when the grants will be dispersed. This will enable easier administration of the program. The need arises from the conversion of the program from a tax credit to a grant program that didn't translate over from one to another entirely correctly. Department of Commerce, who administrates this program, has submitted a letter of support for these changes. With that, I urge a favorable report and turn it over to Tom Krogan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thanks very much. You've heard from Delegate Jones and Mr. Boley about the minor technical changes to the bill, but in the spirit of this committee and in the spirit of accountability that I've been hearing about all afternoon, you all should know how we spend the investment that you made in our industry. I can only speak for my own winery, the vineyards at Doden. Matt already introduced me. We have used it to implement farming practices that improve the environment. In my written testimony, that there's more detail, but I'll tell you one, which is we've implemented farming practices that allow us to sequester net of emissions, 250 tons of carbon dioxide annually. That's about the same as the amount emitted by 30,000 gallons of gasoline. Microsoft Corporation currently pays the direct air capture company Heirloom $1,000 per ton. That's $250,000 that you all will not have to find to fund education. We've also used our dollars to improve the food system. Maryland currently imports about 97% of its fruit, nuts, and vegetables. We've used the funds from this program to add 1,600 trees, 600 of which are edibles. Finally, we use these dollars to provide above market wages, health insurance, and a retirement plan for our employees, for which they thank you very much. Thank you. I urge your support for this bill.
Thank you. Any questions for the sponsor panel? Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you. All right, Delegate Wallach. You have one person with you or two? Yep, come on up. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and colleagues of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, I am Delegate Sarah Wallach, here to present HB 1013. This bill adds licensed clinical professional counselors to the list of health professionals who can certify illness when a state employee is seeking paid sick leave for 5 or more consecutive workdays. There are 3 main reasons I'm bringing this bill forward today for your consideration. First, HB 1013 aligns state employees' policies with the health occupation law. Current Maryland law specifies that physicians, psychologists, social workers, nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, physical therapists, podiatrists, dentists, and optometrists may certify illnesses for state employees requesting paid leave. However, licensed clinical professional counselors are not included on this list, even though they're permitted to diagnose and treat mental health illnesses under the health occupations article. Secondly, HB 1013 will ensure that state employees do not face delays in obtaining leave for mental illness. Currently, if a state employee needs time off because of a mental health issue, they will need to find another type of provider to certify their illness, even though they may be receiving care from a licensed counselor. Finally, this bill aligns our state's efforts to recognize the importance of emotional and mental health. By recognizing the full range of practitioners who provide care in this space, we will ensure that the well-being of state employees is holistically being recognized and addressed. There is no fiscal note. Thank you for your consideration. I urge a favorable report.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee. I'm Carl Coleman, a licensed clinical professional counselor. I ran at CVC. You can even Google me. But it was a no-brainer for me to step into an opportunity to support Bill 1013 at a short notice. And I want to keep it simple because I was told that this time is very short. So I'll give you some A, B, C's. A, I certainly support for the state employees and really everyone to have access to getting through a need for care. B, we can be there. We are there. C, we are very connected to the employees or to the clients rather who are state employees. We're competent, and it would be terrible for someone to have to go outside of their connection, outside of their circle to get support just to get a sign off for an important leave situation. I know that we don't have a lot of time, but I knew where to come today. I had the address. But the building 6 was not, the address was not on this building. And I had quite a time trying to get in here. So that was just a fresh example of what access can be for people, for the state employees of Maryland. Thank you very much for the consideration.
Chairman Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, members of the Appropriations Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding House Bill 1013. My name is Dr. Magali Brewer, and I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor of Maryland. I'm also a business owner for the past 20 years of an outpatient mental health clinic that serves close to 1,000 clients in the state of Maryland. I'm here today in support of House Bill 1013, which will formally authorize licensed clinical professional counselors the opportunity to provide mental health care support services to state employees and provide a sick leave certificate as applicable for dates of services requested. Passage of this bill will help to substantially legitimize the standing of licensed professional counselors in the field, as they will be considered on par with other licensed mental health professionals, providing mental health support and services to state employees. I have a multidisciplinary team of mental health professionals at my outpatient mental health clinic who provide therapy and psychiatric services to state employees. Passage of this bill will help to streamline the process so that licensed clinical professionals who are already providing therapeutic services and who know their clients very well within that relationship can further support their clients without any disruption of services by being deemed eligible to review and sign off on leave requests having to do with issues of sickness or disability. The licensed clinical professional counselors of Maryland sincerely appreciate your interest in supporting us and helping to streamline and better support state employees in the process. We therefore respectfully request a favorable report from the committee. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for the bill sponsor or panel? Great bill, Delegate. Thanks for bringing it forward. Thank you all for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Delegate Foley, is Delegate Foley with us? All right, how about Delegate Henson? Oh, hey, Delegate.
Hello,
You have
Mr. Chairman.
somebody with you? Yep, okay,
I
well,
do.
okay.
Thank you. Hello, colleagues. I'm Delegate Shanika Henson, for the record, here to present House Bill 1066, the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Fund alterations. I first want to thank this committee for your hard work with the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. 2 sessions ago, with the speaker as lead sponsor on the bill, this committee increased the funding source for this commission from $1 million to $5 million that they can administer in African American heritage preservation grants. And it was because of your support and your dedication to this mission that this was done. We're coming back not to ask for any new money, but to ask for an alteration in the way that they can spend the money. Currently, the grants are all capital grants, but after having supported great African American history and culture organizations, those organizations now need support with operating dollars. The buildings have been revitalized, people have been able to preserve history that otherwise would have perished, and now they need funding to get new people in to see it, to get the operating dollars to really stand these organizations up. That is the purpose of this bill, and hopefully with your support, they'll be able to diversify what they're able to do with the generous funding from this committee. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Henson. And thank you, Chair Barnes and members of the committee. You received my letter of support, so I'm just going to paraphrase my letter. As Executive Director of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, we are collectively in full support of House Bill 1066 to enhance our current grant program to include non-capital funding for African American heritage sites and organizations throughout the great state of Maryland. For over 50 years, our commission has been dedicated to authentically preserving and presenting Black history and culture as a tool for racial equity, community empowerment, and social change. The African American Heritage Preservation Grant is a vital tool in preserving buildings and sites of historical and cultural significance on the African American experience in Maryland. Maryland, a founding colony, home to the institution of enslavement, Jim Crow laws, lynching and racial terror, and the Civil War, has over 200 African American heritage sites. These sites, such as Rosenwall schools, historic churches, Underground Railroad sites, historic homes of abolitionists and civic leaders, and parks, are vital to the fabric of our state. They stand as lasting imprints of a resilient and profound American story. As reported in Maryland's Historical Trust's most recent preservation plan, African American heritage sites, such as I listed above, in our state are in need of capital funding that supports research, planning, capacity building, and programming. The African American Heritage Preservation Program grant has the administrative capacity and staff to award both capital and non-capital funding, and we humbly ask for your support on this important piece of legislation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Delegate Henson, Ms. Convent, for presentation of the bill. Any questions from members of the committee? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Concludes the bill hearing for House Bill 1066. The committee will now move on to House Bill 1136, Delegate Boafo, Human Services, Youth Service Bureau Funding, Youth Services Bureau Restoration Act.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Can I bring up my panel?
Yes.
Great. Great. All right, Mr. Chair, for the sake of time, I think they're coming in, but I'll get started. Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, members of the Appropriations Committee, good to be back here today. For the record, Delegate Adrian Boafo here to present House Bill 1136, the Youth Service Bureau Restoration Act. For over 40 years, Maryland's youth service bureaus have been pivotal in providing effective youth delinquency diversion treatment and family intervention services. These programs are vital in nurturing competent and responsible youth who can contribute positively to society. Through robust partnerships with local schools, faith-based organizations, and local government agencies, these bureaus have been instrumental in enhancing the well-being of Maryland families. However, unfortunately, mainly due to strategic cuts by the previous administration, we've seen a dramatic loss in funding for our youth service bureaus. At their peak, there were 21 across the state, but now only 7 remain. The success of the youth service bureaus is backed by concrete data. According to DJS, 95% of youth served in formal counseling did not enter the system 2 years after counseling. The Youth Service Bureau Restoration Act will restore vital funding to meet the growing demand for service beginning fiscal year 26. And due to the fact that I recognize our state faces great financial headwinds, I'll be submitting amendments shortly to reduce the annual fiscal impact this will have on our state budgets, and I look forward to working with the committee on this. In the meantime, members of the committee, Mr. Chair, I urge a favorable report on HB 1136.
Good afternoon. My name is David McGee, and I am a mentor at Bowie City. I've been a mentor since 2012. I see great value in our programs because the students of today's environment need another adult to listen to them other than their parent. The need for mentoring has greatly increased since I began in 2012. And I would attribute this to social media and the isolation that the teens experience in addition to transitioning into adulthood and stress at home. What we provide is a place for teens to receive a positive and caring role model. We are there to ward off drug and alcohol abuse, to instill better relationships with family members and other students. Bowie Family Services, in addition to the mentoring programs, offers counseling to those students that have a great need. What we offer is someone that will show up consistently once a week and have lunch and to talk. Our conversations may include relationships, reaching goals, and encouragement in school work. We may also help the student to envision themselves in the future to attend college. There is value in our program because we are fellow human beings looking out for the future of fellow human beings.
My name is My name is Julie Snyder, and I represent the Anne Arundel County Community Action Agency. Prior to losing our Youth Services Bureau funding in 2017, the agency served low-income youth and families in Annapolis and around Anne Arundel County as part of the YSB network for 39 years. Since that time, the demand for quality mental health services hasn't declined. It has increased, especially since the pandemic. As a member of Anne Arundel County's Health Ambassadors team conducting outreach and surveying local residents, we have heard directly from residents that mental health services are needed and necessary for children and youth. Indeed, we are hearing this from those in communities who have historically viewed mental health care negatively. Young people are hurting in our community. Anxiety and depression have increased. Violence in schools has also increased. With the stigma against mental health treatment eroding, this is the time to refund YSBs throughout Maryland. With YSB funding, our agency can once again serve children and youth within their own community where families can experience a level of comfort. Our Youth Services Bureau had successful outcomes with youth referred to us through DJS, and we would welcome working with youth in partnership with DJS to decrease recidivism, as well as serving other children, youth, and families needing mental health services. As a community, on the local and state levels, fiscal support is critical to increase access to mental health services for our children and youth. The time is now. The children and youth we serve today are the future of our community, and they deserve to be mentally healthy and alive. Thank you.
Mayor. It's already on.
Good afternoon. My name is Mayor Cynthia Miller, City of District Heights. District Heights Family Youth Services Bureau is in its 20th year of successfully providing mental behavioral health services to the south central portion of Prince George's County. Support of the YSB and services offered, we obtained a bond bill to build 12,000 square feet facility in 2018 to continue to provide wraparound services to children, youth, and families. Increased the need for services in 2020. District Heights did not experience a halt in counseling and supported services to the community. Ongoing services, District Heights focused on the initiative to support the community school by having a YSB clinician 2 days a week at District Heights Elementary School. The ask, allocated funding would increase accessibility of mental health service for our most vulnerable population. The city is willing to invest, but need direct support to serve the city and the broader service area. We are here to support all communities, but funding would be very important. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Liz Park. I'm the co-chair of the Maryland Association of Youth Service Bureaus and the director of Greenbelt Cares Youth and Family Services. This bill would be very important for us in terms of our funding. Back when youth service bureaus were created in 1974, the state put forward $2.4 million annually to fund youth service bureaus, and there were 21 across the state. When Governor Hogan came in, there were 19 youth service bureaus across the state. Now there are 7, mainly focused in Prince George's County. We're looking to expand these important prevention services that were there to help children achieve success in their life. We have worked with, and you'll hear our testimony has been submitted from bureaus Anne Arundel County, Montgomery County, Baltimore City, and Southern Maryland, who stand ready if the funding is available to reopen their youth service bureau and provide these services. We hope that you find a favorable report on this bill and work with Delegate Boafo, who's been a champion for us in understanding what kids need, and that these services help keep kids out of the juvenile justice system. As he noted, 95% of youth who work with us never enter or re-enter the juvenile justice system. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much to Delegate Boafo and the witnesses who are here. Any questions from members of the committee? Great. Thank you very much. We have the next set of witnesses to come up. Yasha Barber, College Park Youth Services Bureau. Wendy Wilcox with Bowie Youth Services Bureau. Katrina Emerson with District Heights Family and Youth Services Bureau. Rosalind Caesar with Maysby. Alice Wilkerson with the Maryland Youth Justice Coalition. Okay, great. Thank you very much, guys.
Good afternoon. My name is Kaisha Barber, and I'm the Director of College Park Youth and Family Services. I've been the director there for 5 years, and I've been working with youth service bureaus throughout the state for almost 20 years in Southern Maryland, also with District Heights. I'm here to echo what I've heard from my colleagues and also implore you that we are working very hard in conjunction with many agencies, including the Department of Juvenile Services, to keep youth out of systems such as DJS. Later, you'll hear from a young person who has been impacted by the services provided at College Park and from youth service bureaus. Thank you. I hope you'll find a favorable opinion on this bill.
Hello, I'm Wendy Wilcox, the Director of Bowie Youth and Family Services. I've been with Bowie Youth and Family Services for 29 years and Director as 10. And I will also echo previous testimony and please ask for your favorable report. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Katrina Emerson. I'm the Executive Director of District Heights Family and Youth Services Bureau. I have been with District Heights since 2012 as an intern, and I've worked my way up to become the director as you see today. And I do echo the other directors of the youth service bureaus and hope that you will find a favorable report for this bill.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Wilkerson, Executive Director of Advance Maryland, testifying as a member of the Maryland Youth Justice Coalition in support of House Bill 1136. Services and accountability. Having sat through hours of testimony in judiciary and JPR this session through the fall, these are the two words that I have heard the most. I've also heard everyone from state's attorneys to advocates, law enforcement, DJS, calling for more services, especially deflection services and wraparound services like those provided by YSBs. In January, MyJC issued a report that summarizes what over 20 years of data and research tells us. Keeping kids out of the system is what's best for kids, and it's what's best for safety. The more contact a kid has with the system, the more likely they are to return. Research also tells us that the best way to hold a kid accountable is to provide them with services and individualized treatment plans. Incarceration and detention actually leads to worse long-term outcomes for kids and public safety. In addition to services being what's best for kids and best for safety, they're also what's best for the budget. It costs DJS $474,000 a year to keep a kid in detention, even more for commitment, even more when we factor in the cost for the Office of the Public Defender. With HB 1136, you can do what's best for kids, what's best for safety, and what's best for the budget. We request a favorable report.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the committee for this panel witnesses? Great, thank you very much. Have a great day. Thanks for being here. Next, we have testimony from Jane Huang, College Park Youth and Family Services.
I think she had to leave.
Sadat Rahman. Is there anyone else in the here who's signed up for this? What's your name, ma'am?
Donna Schaefer. Lighthouse, Catonsville.
We'll give you a few minutes.
Okay, I'll only take a couple minutes.
Okay,
Do you want me to talk first?
sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Donna Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director of Lighthouse Youth and Family Services in Catonsville. We have been helping the youth of Baltimore County for 50 years. When the funding was cut, we find ourselves the only existing open youth service bureau in Baltimore County. We are doing everything we can to help Baltimore County and especially our local area. Please help us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rahman, and I'm a 21-year-old college sophomore. I grew up with the College Park Youth Service Bureau in my neighborhood, and as a child, I received counseling service there. I also attended regular community events held there. While my reasons receiving counseling are personal, I very much wanted to make it public the need for such agencies in our communities. The services I received contributed to me staying out of trouble in the school and in the community. I feel like they also help my family feel supported in my upbringings and my path that I would follow through school and on to college. Now that I'm attending college, I'm able to work in front office part-time to earn money for college. I also have the opportunity to connect with a family who are currently receiving services and see the impact that trained professional staff have on the youth. They work with families in the office and also go to school and other community locations. The experience is also providing me with valuable skills that I may take into my chosen profession. These wraparound services are above and beyond what May agencies can offer. I am just one of many youth who have been positively impacted by the work of youth services bureaus. It is very important, and I ask you to support Youth Service Bureau funding by voting yes to House Bill 1136. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the committee for these two panelists? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have virtual witnesses joining us today. Okay, the first one we have is Anthony Tillman. Anthony Tillman. Okay, the first, Mr. Tillman, thanks for joining us, and you have 2 minutes to provide testimony. If you have any Tillman, it's on YouTube or anything, you can turn it off.
Okay.
You've got YouTube in the background.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Good afternoon.
The first, Mr. Tillman, thanks for joining us, and you have 2 minutes to provide testimony. If you have any Tillman, it's on YouTube or anything, you can turn it off.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Good afternoon, Appropriations Committee. My name is Anthony Tillman, Commissioner for the great city of District Heights, and I highly support House Bill 1136 due to the fact that Youth Services Bureau operates as a community-based services. They offer expert mental health consulting to our residents provided by licensed professionals. Moreover, they play a crucial role as a main support system for children and families in need, fostering strong connections within the communities they serve. I wholeheartedly support this bill and hope to receive a favorable report as it enhances the accessibility of mental health services not only in the city of District Heights, but also in other areas of the county. Thank you for your time today.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Tillman. Are there any questions from members of the committee for Mr. Tillman? Great. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining us virtually. Hi, may we ask your name, the witness?
Hi, how are you? I'm Kimberly Nimmons with the YMCA Youth and Family Services.
Yes, Kimberly Nimmons, thank you for joining us. You have 2 minutes to provide testimony.
Thank you. I'm testifying on behalf of support for the bill to refund the youth service bureaus from Montgomery County. I would just like to say I work for the YMCA, and so we've historically provided behavioral health services, mental health services for all of the middle schools, high schools, and elementary schools in our region. We get funding from Montgomery County to provide these services. Before, when we were receiving funds also from the state, we were able to leverage that funding with our other funding in order to provide services that were not covered by the county. So in 22, our county contract changed. It became Bridge to Wellness, which allowed us to extend services to all of the high schools in Montgomery County, all 19. However, because those funds were federal funds, we were only able to provide services to students and families of that particular high school. And so without the state funding that we also lost, we were not able to provide services to neighboring elementary schools and middle schools that we had been serving. Before we lost the funding, we had served Charles Drew Elementary School, White Oak Middle School, Tacoma Park Middle School, Crest Haven Elementary School, Briggs Cheney Middle School, Silver Creek Middle School, Fairland and Montgomery and Fairland and Forest Knolls Elementary School. All of them we were no longer able to provide services for when we lost that funding. If we were able to receive that funding again, we could again leverage those funds in order to reach out to these schools and provide services on site and in the community as we had before. It allows us tremendous flexibility and enable us to see a lot of families that we are not able to see now when the services were cut off.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Nimmons, for your testimony. Any questions from this committee for Ms. Nimmons? Great. Thank you very much for joining us virtually. Have a great day. Next witness.
The next one,
Hi, Ms. Casarubias.
Hi,
How you doing?
good. How are you?
Good. If you could turn on your camera and your audio and then provide 2 minutes testimony.
Yeah, yes, sir. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me turn my camera on. You see me?
Yes, we see.
Okay. Do I start now?
Sure.
Okay. So my name is Jocelyn. I am the community school coordinator at District Heights Elementary School. And so I've had the pleasure of working with YSB since last school year. And it has been such a pleasure working with them, not only because that they help our students, but also our families. So I sent a few families over to them and it has helped tremendously. They've also helped us this year a lot. We have Miss Tamary that comes weekly on a weekly basis to meet with our primary students, so pre-K through 2nd grade, and she deals with a lot of students that need that mental health support. YSB has also helped us during our holidays, donating Thanksgiving baskets, Christmas baskets, incentives, and things like that. And without their support, this school year would not be possible. They have been such a tremendous help, and I just want to tell them as well, if they're there, that thank you for all your support. We couldn't have done this partnership without you guys, and we appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from members of the committee for the panelists? Okay, thank you very much. Be careful. Have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next question. Next person we have is Timothy George from the city of Greenbelt. The Deputy Chief.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. I'll keep this very brief. I just wanted an opportunity to voice our support for House Bill 1136 to restore the funding for the Youth Services Bureau. In my 22 years of law enforcement experience, I can honestly say that we cannot effectively do our job as law enforcement without our partners with the Youth Services Bureau. Being able to connect our youth and their families to services to help not put a Band-Aid on a problem, but rather to address the root causes of the issues, whether it's crime or status offenses or mental health issues, is just vital for doing that. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the work you do, and take care.
Great. Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. Is there any questions from members of the committee? Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, the last person was
Okay, the last person we had listed was Tracy Smith Walters, and we can accept their testimony written. Okay, great. That concludes the bill hearing for House Bill 1136. The committee will now move on to House Bill 1095, Delegate Foley, Economic Development, Local Journalism Sustainability Grant Program.
Good afternoon. Chair Chang and members of the Appropriations Committee, it's great to be here again. And I am, for the record, Delegate Linda Foley. I'm testifying on HB 1095, Local Journalism Sustainability Grant Program. This is actually a bill that was introduced by Delegate Vogel, but I am a sponsor with him on the bill. There are approximately 52 newspapers currently being published in Maryland. These newspapers, such as the Baltimore Sun, the Capital Gazette, now known as the Maryland Gazette, the Greenbelt News Review, the Daily Record, and the Frederick News Post, just to mention a few, provide critical information for our constituents about shifts in local education and small business policies, as well as recently passed legislation in the Maryland General Assembly and information on upcoming and interesting events for their communities. 52 at first glance sounds like a sizable number of newspapers in our state, but the reality is that the situation paints a very different picture. More than 118 newspapers have been closed in Maryland over the years. These are local newspapers now. And in recent years, there has been an alarming increase in the rate of disruptions at local level journalism in that sector. According to Northwestern University Medill School of Journalism, there has been an average of 5 newspapers closing every 2 weeks in this country, with more than half of all American counties, including many in Maryland, my own, Montgomery is an example, living in now so-called news deserts with limited access to news about their local communities. The exponential increase in bankruptcy for newspaper agencies in Maryland is not only hurting our local communities and the neighborly news that they receive, but it's simultaneously impacting businesses that thrive in our communities. Previously utilized public notices in local newspapers that are now defunct have forced companies and individuals to place their public notices in newspapers such as the Washington Post, which have higher costs for placement than, for example, the Montgomery County Sentinel, which is one of the newspapers that went out of business. So this is driving up costs also for governments. This has placed a large strain and cost on governments, as well as our local businesses who like to advertise in smaller publications. HB 1095 would create a journalism sustainability grant program under the Department of Commerce to provide funding for small businesses in order to cover the cost of advertising in a local newspaper. The intent of this legislation is to support local journalism by encouraging advertisements in local papers, which receive a significant portion of their revenue through advertising. And in fact, that's really how they make their money. The subscription rates do not even cover the cost of delivering the paper. The grants awarded would be equal to 100% of the costs incurred by a small business to place an advertisement in a local paper up to $1,000. The total amount of grants approved by the department would not exceed $25,000. For each fiscal year, the governor shall include an appropriation of at least $25,000 to the department to administer the program. Additionally, under this bill, the department would report to the Maryland General Assembly on the total amount of grants awarded, the small businesses that received the grants, and the local newspapers in which the advertisements were placed. The fiscal note highlights the fact that given the size of the program, the Department of Commerce can effectively administer the grant program with existing budgeted resources, and that legislation may be potentially meaningful for a small business that receives a grant. I also want to state that those of you who know me know that I came from the newspaper business and I represented employees in the newspaper business for many years. And let me just say that there was a time when these jobs at these newspapers in these local communities were the best jobs in town, and they employed hundreds of people. That's no longer the case. And so in addition to the other aspects of this, it's also does affect the jobs in our local communities. I'll be happy to take any questions.
The bill delegate, any questions? Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Great day. Anybody here from a couple counties? Washington County, Frederick County delegation? Okay, come on up. Both come up. Washington County first. House Bill 1021.
Thank you, Chairman Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and honorable members of Appropriations Committee. I'm Delegate Weigel. Please present House Bill 1021, which grants additional bonding authority in the amount of $50
Just your
million.
annual bonding authority bill, right?
Yes.
Great.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the bill sponsor? That concludes the bill hearing. House Bill 1016, Frederick County delegation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. For the record, I'm Delegate April Miller here to present House Bill 1016 on behalf of the Frederick County delegation. I would like to thank the chairs and the whole committee for the opportunity to present this bill today. House Bill 1016 is a response to a local Frederick County issue related to school construction. The bill, as written, would create a work group that would bring together state and county partners with the goal of finding funding solutions to meet the capital needs of the county school system. Frederick County is the fastest growing county in the state, and as a result, our ability to meet the demand for additional classroom space through school construction has been tested. To fulfill Maryland's blueprint for education plans for pre-kindergarten, at least a minimum of 7 additional pre-K classrooms will need to be built. And then an additional factor that is exacerbating this issue is the age of existing school buildings in the county, with several schools constructed in the 1960s nearing the end of their useful life, barring significant renovation. Student population growth combined with our aging crop of school buildings has pushed Frederick County to a breaking point, as the combination of county and state funds that are dedicated to school construction are projected to fall far short of estimated need in upcoming years. FCPS currently has 34 school buildings that are older than 35 years, with 7 that are older than 70 years. There are currently 3 new schools, 5 limited renovations, 1 addition, 3 replacements, 5 replacements with additions, and 1 modernization in the 10-year capital plan. This includes 1 new and 2 replacement high schools, which will each cost upwards of $140 million. Our county executive is also conducting a feasibility study for a critically needed new career and technology center. One example that epitomizes the challenges Frederick County is facing is Oakdale Elementary School. The school is currently at 176% of its state-rated capacity, and it is in a high-growth area with 100 students expected to be added just in the next school year.
Delegate, is this a local bill?
It is a local bill. Are we good?
Has the delegation?
Yes, of course.
Has passed delegation.
There's a letter, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good if you're good.
Okay. Any questions for the delegate? All
I
right.
will add the fiscal note is beautiful.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll look at it. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too. Have a good night.
Committee, we're adjourned.